The war on terror, scores of underage youth allegedly detained in Mombasa cells.
Government to be sued for failure to follow the Education Act.
And dry spell spreading to other parts of the country as indiscriminate Mother Nature has her way.
Good afternoon. We open up this bulletin at the coastal city of Mombasa, where the residents there are just recovering from a clash between members of the Muslim community and police. We have reports that 3 people have so far been confirmed dead following that clash yesterday. A police officer and 2 youths who reports say are militants of this particular group. The siege, as has been called right now, occurred at the Musa Mosque in Majengo area of Mombasa County. We also do understand that police have detained people who are part of these riots, and now parents in that area are alleging that these people are actually underage. To get a grasp of what exactly is happening in Mombasa, let's go to Mombasa with our senior reporter Ferdinand Omondi with the very latest of exactly what is happening there.
Yeah, morning, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Fadi.
Yeah, we have latest information coming from this area, and so far, first of all, let me just reiterate that official communication from the police or government sources has been hard to come by. They called a press conference at 11:30, which they later postponed up to 2 p.m. So we are yet to get from them whether they can confirm whether or not a policeman was killed. What we saw on the ground is a policeman who looked to have been slaughtered, but the official position still remains that no policeman was killed. Maybe the narrative may change later, but as it is right now, they are denying that a policeman was killed. Now, right now, I am at the office of the senator from Mombasa County, Hassan Omar. He has called a press conference flanked by the member of parliament for Mvita Abdul Samad Sharif Nasir and Hussein Khalid, the executive director of Africa and Muslims for Human Rights, and they have roundly condemned the violence that occurred yesterday at the Masjid Musa. They say they are, quote, perturbed by the events, and according to them, the measures carried out by the police yesterday were, quote, unwarranted and unjustifiable and meant to instill fear in the minds of the Muslims. Now, they're also doing statistics here. They are saying in this joint statement that they can confirm that at least 4 people were killed, and 3 right now they say are at the mortuary, Coast General Hospital mortuary, and they say that at least 1 more was confirmed buried last night, and they suspect that another 3 could also have been buried, and they say that these people suffered from bullet wounds. So they're confirming 4 were killed, but they suspect that at least 7 may have died at the hands of the police. There's very many arrests that will conduct. Yes,
Fadi, allow me to jump in. There are reports that police recovered firearms from this clash. Is there any truth to that?
Yes, there was an AK-47 rifle that the police officer displayed. They said that they did recover from the mosque itself, and along with that, there were these flags which we also saw ourselves that were displayed outside the mosque that bear the symbol, very similar to what the militia outfit Al-Shabaab normally carry around. So they're trying to link the two to justify the narrative that this place is a recruitment center for terrorist activities. Now, let me also add that there have been very many parents who came also spoke to us this morning complaining that there are very many minors who are in police custody. According to them, at least 22 of the many people arrested were minors. I spoke to a woman who claimed a 9-year-old is in police custody. Another one said an 11-year-old is in police custody. And according to them, up to now, they have been unable to track them down. We were also trying to track them down. First, we had they would be taken to the Mombasa law courts. Then we had they would be taken to Shanzu. So we've gone around, but so far we've been unable to. The latest we've had is that, again, they've been taken to Shanzu law courts. So another cameraman is there to go and confirm exactly. But yes, we have parents complaining that their minors have been arrested.
So Fadi, what you're saying is that despite the claims from the parents, you haven't been able to trace the exact location of these people. But very quickly, Fadi, as late as yesterday, in the nearby Sakina Mosque, there was a lockdown. There was no movement. How is the situation now?
Right now, there is free movement. We've gone there and we've seen movement. People are going about their business. I can't confirm about the 1 p.m. prayers because I'm here, but the mosque hasn't been shut down. What I do know is that there have been very consistent patrols by police in full riot gear. I've seen at least a lorry going around Mombasa here. So it's a little tense, but people are going about their business as usual. There were reports of skirmishes in the morning, but we didn't see any of it. So far, concerns of the people, very passionate, angry parents, and there is the possibility that things could go out of hand, but the leaders here are calling for calm as they try to find a way to engage with the police to at least show their parents where those children are.
All right, Ferdinand Omondi, many thanks for that update. We'll be getting back to you later on for a clearer look at what exactly is happening in Mombasa, and as and when we get any report, we'll be the first to give it to you. Edith?
Right, from Mombasa and matters of terrorism and security, let's have a look at our education system. And a parents' association, actually known as the Kenya National Association of Parents, says that it is ready to sue the Ministry of Education and the Teacher Service Commission over what they term illegal fees charged by public schools. The association says some public secondary schools are charging up to 100,000 shillings per term in school fees, therefore denying a huge population of students from poor backgrounds the right to education. Now, according to the Basic Education Act, all children are entitled to free basic education from pre-primary to secondary. So we are now joined by Amos Kaburu, who's an education analyst, to get more insight on the cost of education in Kenya's public schools. Amos, the first question to you perhaps is, how free is free education?
That's an interesting, thanks Edith for that question. That's a bit interesting on how free is free education in this country, because the Act provides that the government should shoulder the responsibility of free and compulsory education. But unfortunately, a year after this law came into effect, we do not see any drastic measures to ensure that the education is free in this country. Rather, we see that parents continue being charged fee, and is even excavated to an extent that there are schools which are charging more than 90,000 Kenya shillings as fee in a year.
To government's defense, they have put out recommendations. They've said that every year a child should be spending no more than 18,000 shillings, and they're topping that up with 10,000. So where are we getting this disconnect? Amos, are you still able to hear me? All right, it appears that we have lost contact with Amos, but when we do, we'll get back with him. But remember, the story we're looking at is the cost of education. If you go to www.standardmedia.co.ke, the headline will jump at you. National schools charging higher than colleges. Let's have a look at other news. And the board wars at the National Authority for the Campaign Against Drug Abuse, Nakada, continue to play with the chairman maintaining that top management must go on leave. Nakada chairman John Mutudho says an audit report recommended that senior managers be sent on leave or allowed to step aside to allow for investigations over claims of embezzlement of up to 400 million shillings. But even as Mutudho stood his ground, Cabinet Secretary Joseph Olelenku is expected to chair a meeting with the Nakada board to help settle the dispute. Olelenku has expressed his concern over how Mutudho is handling the board issues.
I've not been summoned by anybody, and I'm doing my job as per the law. There is nothing like being summoned for saying money has been consumed. I would say it, and I will continue saying.
More than 75,000 people in Laikipia County are facing starvation. The county has joined the likes of Turkana, Kilifi and Samburu that have been greatly affected by an ongoing drought. KTN's Asha Mulu reports.
In the midst of a severe drought, there is singing in Laikipia North. Students from Kimanjo, Reteti and Iwaso primary schools have at least one thing to smile about. Those affected by jiggers are receiving treatment from the Kenya Red Cross and some new shoes to go with it. But the faces around tell of an even bigger crisis in this community. More than 75,000 people in the constituency are facing starvation.
Ninajua kama mbunge wenu pia naenda kuangalia kwa sababu najua kuna kiangazi. Watu hawana chakula. Na watu wa Laikipia North hawapati chakula kama Isiolo, hawapati chakula kama Samburu.
About 1,000 bags of maize were distributed earlier to the locals by aid agencies. But the leaders say this is hardly enough. With the entire country focused on the famine in Turkana County, Laikipia has been overlooked.
This time is a drought spell, and the people of Laikipia North are suffering. About 75,000 people need relief food.
The Kenya Red Cross says focus will now be shifted to feeding programs in such schools. The aim is to have children access at least one meal per day, even as the drought persists. Ashimwelu, KTN News Desk.
We remain with food matters, and Baringo County leaders have appealed for the immediate supply of relief food to over 100,000 hunger-stricken residents in the county. The leaders, led by Baringo Senator Gideon Moi, Governor Benjamin Cheboy, and Women Representative Grace Kiptui, said the county government is already distributing food, but the need for the support from the national government to be able to distribute food to the starving families.
At least the governor is doing his part in pushing the national government in assisting us in bringing the food down to the people, and we are going to do what we can in the distribution of the food to the needy, especially in Tiati and North Baringo and part of Central Baringo. But we also encourage our own people who have excesses in other parts of the county to contribute.
Let's get back to matters education. We're now rejoined by Amos Kaburu, who is an education consultant. And earlier on, before we were interrupted, he was saying that government is not following protocol, that students are being charged up to 100,000 shillings a term in high school, while the same government recommends that only 18,000 should be charged per student per year. So, Amos, before we were interrupted, my question was, where is the disconnect? Because government is still chipping in the 10,000 plus that it had promised for every child.
Thanks, Edith. The disconnect is that the government, the process of reviewing what are the charges seems not to be very, very keen, and is a process that is always delayed. It is not up to speed, and it does not address the issues as they are. For instance, you cannot still be giving the 10,265 that you are giving in 2008 and still be giving it to date. The other thing is that the government seems to be not basically in charge by knowing that schools are charging this money. So it could be that the government is not in charge, or it is waiting and overseeing over this impunity that is taking place in the schools. Because some of the schools, even within Nairobi, they are less than 15 kilometers from the Ministry of Education headquarters, and they are charging all these amounts of money. Okay. Yet we cannot see any decision being taken by the Ministry of Education officials.
Amos, according to the story in the Standard newspaper, the Cabinet Secretary Jacob Kaimenyi said that his ministry does not have an audit of what these schools are spending their money on. So what are they charging the students for? From 18,000 to 100,000, where are these costs coming in?
And exactly that is where the problem is, because the Cabinet Secretary seems not to be aware of what is taking place. And that's what I meant by saying that basically the government is not in charge, because the government needed to have taken a serious audit of establishing what are these additional costs that are being charged. Because according to the guidelines released in 1999, it's supposed to be, parents were only supposed to be charged an additional 2,000 shillings, which was the development levy. But now the government is not in charge. We have schools coming out with all forms of excuses. The cost of living has gone up. And even you cannot understand, you look at cases of why a school is made a national school, and within a week, the cost of that school has gone up from basic of 40,000 to almost 90,000 Kenya shillings. That is where the entire disconnect is in.
Okay, Amos, unfortunately, we're running out of time, but final question. Musa Ndunda, the Secretary General for the Kenya National Association of Parents, says that he is going to sue government because he says they're not following protocol. Will this assist the situation? I mean, the students will still be required to pay the outrageous fees, as he called them. Where will the reprieve come in?
I think that it's important that we have this issue interpreted by the courts of this land, because that's where we pay the money for the interpretation of the laws to be done. But it will be important that the government should not wait to be taken to court, but it should come out to be very, very clear in terms of what are the guidelines on what should be paid. I think the parents of this country are not running away from paying fee. They are ready to do that. And all they're asking the government is to have a harmonized approach through which this money is charged, because you cannot have some schools charging 78, others are charging 90, and others even are charging 100. We need to be clearly told what are the factors that are put into consideration to determine what is being charged. The parents of this country, that's all that they are waiting for. They are not afraid of paying fee.
All right, thank you very much, Amos Kaburu. He's an education consultant, and he did talk about how much government is spending per child. Remember, Musa Ndunda has claimed that these figures are outrageous, and if you want more on those details, standardmedia.co.ke. Tunya?
That's right. Thanks for that very important conversation about education. Let's go to our neighboring South Sudan. And South Sudanese rebels have accused the government forces of razing the hometown of their leader Riek Machar, violating a ceasefire, and said the army was drawing support from foreign fighters now in the country. Rebel spokesman Lul Ruai said the government SPLA forces and fighters from the Sudanese Justice and Equality Movement, a rebel group from the north of the border, had destroyed the northern town of Leer, massacring women and children as they fled. Now, an army spokesman said he had not received any reports of the fighting in Leer, where the medical charity Medicine Sans Frontiers said last week more than 200 of its staff had been forced to flee because of growing insecurity. The government accuses the rebels of flouting the ceasefire signed on the 23rd of January. Let's talk about the business of alcohol. In business, public and restaurant owners are up in arms over the administration of the alcohol blow by the National Transport and Safety Authority. Speaking at a Nairobi hotel, the association cited that the authority was biased in its implementation, raising concerns that it was only targeting upmarket establishments. This, they added, had greatly affected their business, and its continued existence threatens several livelihoods as business and jobs would be lost. Instead, the association, popular as Perak, is now calling on suspension of the crackdown. Now, in a bid to curb accidents related to driving under the influence, the government had, through the NTSA, introduced last December the alcohol blow by law enforcement officers.
.35